Hello everyone, how are you doing? I'm doing awesome because I've discovered a new anime to be obsessed about, Kengan Ashura, which I have of course seen on Netflix but didn't watch because I just make poor decisions apparently. I finally decided to watch it because Netflix released a Baki vs Kengan Ashura movie and I love Baki, so I want to watch it. But if I watch it without watching Kengan Ashura, I won't be able to fully appreciate the movie. I just have to understand all of the stakes involved and know who the characters are and what they are trying to achieve. I can't just come in with only one side of the story. So I binged Kengan Ashura in like 3 days. I didn't necessarily intend to binge it, but it hooked me and I was invested right away and I could not stop. This video is my initial thoughts and impressions. I'd like to make a more in-depth and longer video before season 2 part 2 comes out in August. So if you haven't watched Kengan Ashura and you don't want major spoilers, I think this video will be alright. In the world of this anime, corporate disputes are settled through brutal, bloody fights. For example, who gets the multi-billion-dollar deal to build some new hospital or shopping center or something like that? Take it to the ring. The major players involved choose a fighter, it goes to the ring, they battle it out, and the outcome has to be accepted. They have like a whole history of how this came about in the anime, but I'm not going to get into it here. It doesn't really matter. All you need to know is that this is business fighting. The series follows Oma Takita on his quest to prove that he is the strongest fighter in the world. At his side is Kazuo Yamashita, a regular run-of-the-mill office worker and kind older man who finds his lust for life again through Oma and entering this gladiator world. And I do mean that literally. In the beginning of episode 1, Kazuo just happens to witness Oma give this massive guy a beatdown, and witnessing such epic masculine power fills him with energy. We'll call it energy.
On this day, he was unable to comprehend the cause of his own actions, because for the first time in 15 years, he was with a woman. What roused his manly urge?
I love the over-the-top narration in this kind of anime. It must be so much fun for the voice actor. Fun fact, the English voice actor for Yamashita, Keith Silverstein, is also the voice of Robert Speedwagon, and the commentary and remarks he gives during Oma's battles leave me feeling all nostalgic for early JoJo. He's one of my favorite voice actors. I think he does Kenpachi as well and En from Dorohedoro. I will say right at the beginning that while I enjoyed this anime very much overall, I wasn't and am not the biggest fan of the animation style. Sometimes it's quite painful, but I do feel that the action during the fights still comes across really well. I feel the impact of the blows, the power of the fighters, and the extreme violence in a handful of the bouts. But I do like the style changes and choices when showing a flashback or backstory. And I think season 2 was better, so just push through. When this ex-cop Mr. Justice guy fought the 19-year-old Cosmo, I actually hit the fast forward 10 seconds because it was essentially torture. This guy is obsessed with his particular brand of justice, to the point where he has completely lost himself and his mind and becomes just as bad, if not worse, than the people he hunts. The whole time he's fighting Cosmo, he's going on about justice, and I'm like, my guy, you're not fighting a criminal. Why are you doing this? But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's begin with our main character. Well, main characters, Oma Takita and Kazuo Yamashita. I liked Oma right away. As is normal for the main character of a show, you know how it goes. You're told, this is the protagonist, see how badass he is, and it's like, yes, I see his gorgeous black hair, broad shoulders, and impressive muscles. I am fully on board. And then, as the story progresses, you learn more about the protagonist, his motivations, his personality. You watch him form connections and become attached. It's a whole thing. This is why we love stories. This second level of attachment did take a little longer for me than it did for Baki. I'm sorry, I can't help but compare the two. Because Oma is just not as endearing as Baki Hanma. He's the silent, walls up kind of guy, which is fine, but inherently means it takes longer to get to know him. At first, he is mostly just vengeance and the compulsive urge to fight and prove himself to be the strongest. So, we know that he wants revenge for the murder of his mentor/father figure Nico, and that he has never quite dealt with the pain of Nico's death, and this affects his fighting, forcing him to utilize a technique that is actually killing him. I won't say any more than this in case you haven't watched it, but I do appreciate the emotional complexity that develops in Oma as we continue throughout the series. The relationship that builds between Kazuo and Oma is my favorite, and I appreciate how slowly it happens. I think Oma doesn't realize, at first, how close he has become to the older man until the man is already important to him. And once he notices, he begins to pull back, which hurts both Kazuo Yamashita and me. You don't have to be on your own, Oma. Kazuo is a father, and he wants to be a father figure to Oma. He grows to care deeply for him and is grateful because the young man has reinvigorated him and inspired him to be brave and stand up for himself. Before this, he was that guy in the office that got all the shittiest jobs and never complained. I wonder why he was chosen to be Oma's caretaker, and I hope there is an actual reason yet to be revealed. Because why would the mastermind CEO of this billion-dollar company even be aware of a man like Kazuo Yamashita? I hope we find out. Now I want to run through some of the other fighters. In my personal opinion, the cast of side characters in Kengan Ashura is superior to that of Baki. Just a very interesting, complex and diverse bunch of individuals. And I like that we see them outside of their battles or conflicts, and they have friendships that feel real and emotional connections that I enjoy seeing. And the backstories are wild. I love how anime logic is like, if you hit your head over and over from the time you are a young boy, it makes your skull super strong. One of the first not Oma fighters we meet is Nihito, who has extreme pinching abilities. He can pinch the flesh right off of your bones. Nihito is the character who thinks he's hot shit, finds out he is not, and ultimately aspires to become the hot shit. I like him, and honestly, parts of that like might be because he's voiced by Jonah Scott and therefore makes me think of Legoshi from Beastars and Joe from Skate the Infinity. And while I'm being honest, there are some moments when Oma reminds me of Satoru Gojo because of his voice actor Kaiji Tang, so clearly I'm just unable to be objective. Once the tournament begins, Nihito is defeated in the first round by this older gentleman Gensai. I'm neutral on Gensai. He is very strong. I sense great loss and tragedy in his background. Nihito didn't come close to defeating him, and it was heartbreaking. The thing with these kinds of anime, it's like the stakes aren't the end of the world or defeating a big bad guy like they are in many other anime. They are an inner battle that manifests in an outer battle. Your own self-worth, pride, dignity, honor. If you must lose, you don't want it to be an easy victory for your opponent. When that happens, it is ego-destroying, soul-crushing, and can leave you devastated. It is terribly sad when these confident fighters are defeated and they were so confident they would not. Of course, I only feel this way when I like the fighter. When I don't, I find satisfaction in their disillusionment. Another aspect I really appreciate is the absolute dedication that the fighters who do the best must have. When a character is shown to not have absolute dedication to their style of fighting and the pursuit of perfecting that style and having absolute faith in it, they often fail. And an individual fighter's particular style could be a combination of different styles or their own version of a style. But whatever it is, you must love it and be absolutely dedicated to perfecting it and making it the absolute best it can possibly be, no matter what you have to put your own body through. This is a journey that Oma is going through, as he doesn't have absolute faith in his style, the Nico style, because it got his mentor killed. Another character, Cosmo, who is only 19, sees this difference between him and the other older fighters, this absolute dedication, and he also goes through like an inner journey of giving in entirely to your own ability. Like, I don't think I'm making any sense. I hope you get what I'm saying. A character that I really like is Kaolan Wongsawat. He is my official crush for this anime and very handsome. I am a big fan of his style. He is a boxer and Muay Thai specialist from Thailand. And he always has a worried expression. I mean, these upturned eyebrows, this is worried, right? He seems like he's always concerned. I love it. He is fighting because his king asked him to, and he is dedicated to his king. Beautiful man. I would be dedicated to him as well. He has combined the skills of boxing and Muay Thai to invent a whole new style that is specific to him, and then he perfected that style. So this is what I'm talking about. It's about finding all the ways to be as strong as possible with your specific martial arts knowledge. I find it quite interesting. It's like science, but for fighting. It's cool. Many of the fighters are fighting to be the strongest or to win for their respective companies, but some of them have more personal stakes. Because this whole tournament is run by evil corporations seeking profit, some of the fighters are looking to make deals of their own. So Pang is an overly enthusiastic fighter from Malaysia who annoyed me at first but grew on me with time. He is trying to save his village from the evil electric company, and there's a giant fisherman trying to save the harbor his community depends upon. And then there are those with other motivations. A sickly man who wants to prove that he is not as weak as everyone thinks he is. There is a strikingly handsome but so far kind of boring assassin who is in love with his employer and will do anything for her, including winning this competition. He moves lightning quick and was originally supposed to kill her, but she's just so dang beautiful and sexy. What is a man supposed to do? And then there's Hatsune, whose motivations I don't understand. He's brilliant, but always late for his fights. So does that mean that his reputation doesn't matter to him? I don't know what he wants. He's been hired to win, and he seems determined to do that. But what does he want? Does he want the money? Or does he want his boss to be the most powerful person in the organization? Or does he want the title himself? Or does he just want to do his job? What's going on? The last person I'm going to mention on the competitors front is Setsuna Kiryu, who is obsessed with Oma. He worships him and is deeply attracted to him. Like, do you remember Hisoka fighting Gon? It's like that. I don't want to give spoilers here, so I will just say that something happened when they were both young, and Oma did something impressive, and it changed Kiryu's life forever, and Oma is just unaware and despises him for other reasons. If you want the answers to these questions, then you better go and watch Kengan Ashura. Okay, now I want to talk about the corporate bosses. Most of them are slimy, manipulative, greedy assholes that will do anything for money and power. And that includes this beautiful woman with the great boobs. Sometimes you go to the monsters willingly. But out of all the corporate bosses, there is one that makes me want to believe he's not so bad. And it's this guy, Akira Nishonji. Because he seems to care for his fighter, Cosmo Mai, and feels guilty for making him fight. However, you can't be part of this society and be a good person. I just don't think those two go together. The guy who essentially employs Oma is Hideko Nogi. I root for him because his fate is linked to that of Oma and Kazuo. He is the one who instigated this whole tournament because he wants to become the president of the Kengan Society, stealing the position from the current head, Mitsudo Katahara, who is actually kind of amusing, is really enjoying himself, inherently an evil businessman, but seems to be having a grand old time. The most evil of the evil businessmen is Hayami, who is the head of the previously mentioned evil electric company that wants to knock down Peng's village. He has many plans in motion, and he very much wants power. This woman, Tomari Togo, is horrible. The man she hires is a mercenary from an unspecified African country. He is a bad man, but I found myself rooting for him out of African solidarity. Many of the bosses are quite comical looking. This guy straight up looks like a clown. I don't know why, he just looks like a clown. They are frail and feeble, but hold the most power in the series. They look like gremlins and vampires. Is that purposeful? I'd say yes. All these fighting experts are only here because these people want them to be. There is a scene where one of the bosses talks shit to Lehito, who used to be under his employ, and Lehito is like, I will grind you under my thumb, you little man. I no longer work for you, and you will speak to me with respect.
Talk down to me too much, and I'll carve you off, former boss.
The bosses are playing a whole other game, forming alliances and deals. If you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. But what I really want is to stab you in the back. So if I get a chance to do that, then I definitely will. The whole premise of Kengan Ashura, corporate disputes settled through fights that often lead to death, feels like it could be a real thing. If you turned on the news today and you found out the most powerful people in the world regularly held gladiator-esque tournaments, would you truly be surprised? Which says something very interesting and very terrifying about the world that we live in. One more thing before I end this video, I must mention the Kure family. They are a family of assassins and fighters that have been selectively breeding for like 1,000 years or something, I think more, thousands of years, to make sure they are the ultimate fighting machines. And they are. So if you would like to see all these interesting characters and all their machinations and interesting styles and crazy backstories, be sure to watch Kengan Ashura. I can't wait to make a more detailed video going into the individual fighters and the fights themselves. I think that will be a lot of fun. But I'm going to end this video here. I actually wanted it to be shorter than this, but this is how things go lately. I hope you have a great day. I'm Kayla. See you next time. Bye.